Did you hear that? Out here, the most dangerous enemies are never heard. Our sensors detect the faintest signals below the waves, stopping enemies long before they can surface. Leidos, outsmart, outdo.
Ever notice how life's best stories don't happen in your living room? They happen on the open road, out on the water, or parked under the stars. At Progressive, they get that you want to focus on the experience, not worry about the what-ifs. That's why they offer quality insurance designed for your ride, whether that's a boat, RV, or motorcycle. Adventure with confidence. Visit Progressive.com and see how easy it is to protect your favorite way to get away. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in D.C. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Modern enterprise. There's a lot of moving parts. Comcast Business helps you orchestrate it all. With SD-WAN working at scale to keep 150 hospital locations connected and working as one. Plus SASE and Zero Trust security, protecting financial data across a bank's 2,000 branches. And AI-powered networking that optimizes traffic across 5 continents. No one does business like Comcast Business.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kilowatt, a podcast about electric vehicles, renewable energy, autonomous driving, and much, much more. My name is Bodhi, and I am your host, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to split the show up into 2 different shows. Today's episode's going to be a little bit longer, so what I thought I would do is do a little experiment. I will do the EV segment as one episode, and I will do the Tesla segment as one episode. Now, this isn't necessarily going to happen all the time. I'm just trying it out to see how people like it. So, in general, if the show is 30 minutes or less, I don't feel a huge need to split this stuff out. Or maybe the show is 40 minutes, but only 3 of those minutes are the EV segment or the Tesla segment. I don't really feel the need to split that out. But if it's pretty even and they're both long, both segments are long, I was thinking that it might be better to split it out. So looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this, and we'll see what everybody thinks. If you'd rather just have one long episode, it's actually less work for me. But all in all, I do get that when you typically listen to a podcast that's under 30 minutes and all of a sudden it's over an hour, which I don't think today's will be over an hour, but even when you combine the 2 segments, it can feel intimidating, and maybe you don't want to listen because you don't feel like you have the time or whatever. So by breaking it up, I'm trying to help kind of make it easier for people to listen when they have the time. Okay, starting off with our EV news. We now know the cost of Slate Auto's electric pickup truck. It's going to cost $24,950. That gets you a 65 kilowatt hour LFP battery pack, rear wheel drive, and a range of 205 miles, which is not a lot when it comes to range, but it's also a $25,000 pickup truck. The good news is with LFP batteries, you can charge to 100% more often and you get less battery degradation. So that's good. Also, there may be some room for over-the-air updates and some fine-tuning, because a 65 kilowatt hour battery pack on a truck so small should get more than 205 miles of range. I mean, it is a pickup truck, so it's not exact, and it's square, so it's not exactly the epitome of aerodynamic. But also, it's just it seems like for 65 kilowatt hours, you should be getting more than 205 miles of range. Seems like. Now, having said all that, I do think that this would be a very compelling vehicle for somebody who didn't need to drive for long distances, maybe your commute is 50 miles back and forth to work each day, or maybe you're buying this for your kid who's in high school or college and they don't need that much range. I think that this would be a good vehicle for that, especially at that price. Initially, when Slate announced, there was still the U.S. federal tax credit. And, it looked like with that tax credit, the truck would sell for under $20,000. Well, that federal tax credit has gone away. So the federal, the sub $20,000 truck isn't necessarily the case unless you live in certain states. Because depending on which state you live in, they do have incentives that might make this truck even more affordable. Now, I'm going to go through each state where you could get some money off of this truck in terms of incentives, but I'm not going to go over all the terms and conditions. A lot of the terms and conditions are based off of income. So not everybody would qualify for this. For instance, I wouldn't qualify in a lot of cases for these state incentives, but, I can afford to buy a $25,000 truck if I need to. The whole point in these incentives is to help people buy a newer or new reliable EV. And, a lot of that's going to be income based, just the way it is. So, but there are terms and conditions that you would need to investigate if you live in one of these states. That's all I'm trying to get at. I'm not going to go through every single one because I don't really have time for that. So starting off with California, if you live in California, you could get up to $12,000 off. It's not guaranteed, but up to $12,000. That would make this truck $13,000, which is ridiculously cheap. If you live in Maine, you can get up to $8,000 off. If you live in Oregon, where, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but you're not allowed to pump your own gas in Oregon. Don't worry about why I said that. You're just not allowed to pump your own gas in Oregon. One person knows why I said that. Anyway, you can get $7,500 off. Massachusetts and Vermont, you can get up to $5,000 off. Rhode Island, up to $4,500 off. Connecticut, up to $4,250. New Jersey and Illinois, up to $4,000. Colorado, up to $3,250. Pennsylvania, New Mexico, and Maryland, up to $3,000 off. Minnesota, $2,500 off. And New York, up to $2,000 off. Again, this all comes with caveats, so do your own research. But I mean, that's pretty good. If you bought the base model vehicle and you were able to get, $5,000 off, that's a huge amount of the vehicle that you don't know now you don't have to pay for. So huge benefit. Now the starting price is $25,000. That's true. But there are so many ways to customize this truck. And when I say so many ways, I'm talking a ton of different ways to customize this truck. And I tried to build something that was just ridiculously expensive, right? So I went into the configurator and I just added a bunch of stuff that I thought would be expensive. I got it to $36,000. You could probably get it more than that. But, I tried to customize it in a way that I would be like, I would be happy to own this truck. I didn't try to customize it in a way to bring up the price as high as possible, but I didn't skimp. If I thought it would be really cool to have the SUV version, which I did, I put that in there and I put the bench seats in and blah, blah, blah. And I customized the paint the wraps that you can put on there. And it all came to $36,000. It was just a bit over $36,000. So that's not too bad, honestly. I'm looking forward to seeing these trucks on the road, but more than that, I'm looking forward to seeing what people do to customize them. I mean, straight out the gate, these are very basic vehicles. You have manual windows and manual door locks, and there's not a stereo in it. You have to put your own stereo in. But it's also built for a aftermarket, whether you buy those parts from Slate or you buy them off of Etsy from independent sellers. There's just going to be a ton of different ways. Again, I've used a ton of different ways a ton of times now, but there's just going to be a bunch of different ways that people will be able to make this their own vehicle. And I'm really excited about this. In a world where companies are paring down and not offering as much in each trim, which I do think is important because it can be very expensive if you offer too much and nobody buys it, then you have all that inventory sitting there. But on the other side of things, if you open this up and make it very easy for third parties to create a business that might not be profitable for a company like Slate, but would be profitable for a person like me, I'm just 100% all over this truck. I love it so much. So anyway, I'll stop talking about that and let's move over into our next story. We have a sneak peek at Lucid's sub $50,000 crossover vehicle, the Cosmos, not the Earth. But Lucid registered the design of the Cosmos with the EU's, or European Union's, Intellectual Property Office. And based on the drawings, it looks like a squinched down, smaller Lucid Gravity, which honestly is not a bad thing because I think the Gravity looks fantastic. But we'll keep an eye on this as we get closer to an official reveal, because we don't have an official reveal just yet. Production should start later this year. So I would imagine we're going to see a reveal soon. I mean, it may not be this summer, but at least in the fall, we should see a reveal. And then in addition to that, the other vehicle, right around $50,000 vehicle that Lucid is looking at producing is called the Earth, and we should see that sometime in late 2027. And I have some other Lucid news, which is kind of sad news. Lucid is laying off 18% of its workforce in Casa Grande, at their plant in Casa Grande. That's in Arizona, if you're not familiar. This is about 1,500 workers, and the reason why is they're just not selling enough cars, and they're going to have to, shut some production down. I think the third shift is being shut down. So yeah, not a great time to shut production down. And hopefully all those people will be able to land on their feet at other companies. They do get a severance. There is a severance package that's going to be handed out. So at least they'll get a little bit of runway to try to find their next job. And we have one more bit of news for Lucid, and it pertains to their robotaxi service. Lucid is in a partnership with Uber and Nuro to build robotaxis. Lucid's providing the cars, Uber's providing the network to, put the robotaxis on, and Nuro is providing the technology and software that allows the vehicles to drive themselves. Well, they are looking to bring their robotaxi service to Houston, so that's exciting. Right now, they have plans to operate in San Francisco, and then that will happen sometime this year. I don't think it's happening quite yet, or at least they're probably testing. I don't think they're taking on passengers quite yet. But then sometime after that will be Houston. So let me know if you live in San Francisco or Houston and you see these robotaxis running around. Shoot me an email, Bodie, BODIE, @918digital.com.
What would you do if your online store converted 36% more shoppers? You could take 36% more vacation.
Another pina colada? Yes, please.
Open a new retail location with 36% more square feet.
Fantastic.
Hire 36% more help.
You're hired and you're hired.
Shopify has the world's best converting checkout, up to 36% better than other e-commerce platforms. What you do with those extra sales is up to you. Switch to Shopify today at shopify.com/listen and get a $1 trial. Shopify.com/listen.
O'Reilly. Check engine, ABS, or maintenance light on? Take the guesswork out of your warning lights with O'Reilly Veriscan. The service is free and provides a report with solutions verified by ASE certified master technicians. And if you need help, we could recommend a shop for you. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Matt Money Smith here from Believe in Chargers, and I am reaching out to you, the small business owners, to talk to you about my friends at Gusto, because they can help you out. You want to have your hands in everything. It's your business. It's got your name on it. I get it. But how about running that business a little bit tighter and cutting some of the stuff that maybe you don't want to use your valuable time on, and that is payroll, HR. Let Gusto help you get your time back because every hour counts. So what is Gusto? It's an online payroll and benefits software that's built for small businesses. It is all in one. It is remote friendly. It is incredibly easy to use, and you can pay, hire, onboard, and support your team from anywhere. What does that give you? Saves time. You got built-in automated tools. You got offer letters, onboarding docs, direct deposits, so much more, not to mention direct access to certified HR experts. They are going to help support you through any tough HR situation. So try Gusto today at gusto.com/believe. That's GUSTO.com/believe, BLEAV. And you're going to get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. Again, that is 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/believe. Again, one more time, gusto.com/believe.
Let's talk about Peyronie's disease, or PD. It's not widely talked about, and some men may feel reluctant to bring it up, but it's more common than you'd think. PD can happen when scar tissue builds up under the skin of the penis, causing a curve with a bump during an erection. That, for some men, may lead to pain during intimacy and impact mental health. A trusted urology specialist can help diagnose PD and walk you through your options, including non-surgical treatment. Visit talkaboutpd.com.
Okie doke. We got 2 more stories, but before we get to that, I just want to encourage you, if you would like to support the show, to go to supportkilowatt.com, and you can choose to support the show on Supercast or Patreon, and for as little as $1 a month. Like, I don't know any other places that are offering $1 a month to start with, and really what I want to be able to do is pay for the show with the Patreon. And but I also want to make sure that it's accessible to people who want to contribute. So for $1, you get rid of all of the ads. If you want to donate more, that's great. If you don't, that's also great. It doesn't bother me one little bit if somebody only donates $1. So supportkilowatt.com if you would like to support the show. Okay, so earlier this week, I think it was on Thursday, I had a meeting with folks at the Sunrise Project, and they do a bunch of things, but they're also working with the folks who put together the Lead the Charge leaderboard. And we were talking about a bunch of different, future interviews and different partnerships. None of it paid, by the way. These are people that I have for the last 2 years. This will be the 3rd year, had them on the show to talk about the Lead the Charge and what they're doing. But also there's other stuff that they're doing as well. And we were just talking about different things that they're doing that would make sense for them to be on this show. Not everything obviously makes sense to be on this show, but it was a good meeting. But one of the things that we were talking about is how automakers are now including information on how clean their supply chains are. And they're doing this by being transparent about their responsible sourcing, like low carbon steel and aluminum. You might hear it called green steel or green aluminum, but the point is this is something that they're calling out as a way to sell more cars, as a way to stand out from other automakers. Because there are certainly automakers who are better at having a clean supply chain than others, for sure. And, as a general rule, it sounds like all the automakers are trying to make improvements. But in general, if you offer a car that's, a spaceship on wheels and has a range of about 300 miles, how do you differentiate yourself from other companies that are offering something similar? And one of the ways to do that is to say, hey, look how clean our supply chain is. And again, all of this transparency is good. It's good not only for EVs, but it's good for the automobile industry as a whole. So as these initial partnerships with EV makers are being made, let's just say we'll use green steel or low carbon steel as an example. Initially, it stands to reason it's going to be more expensive. And then as these suppliers are able to hit economies of scale, it'll actually end up reducing cost on these cleaner materials like low carbon steel. And then initially, hopefully, that would find its way into other vehicles like ICE cars. So just kind of taking it back, when Tesla and companies like BYD, early EV automakers, when they first started, a lot of the critical materials and components that they were using for batteries or the motors, the magnets and the motors, that kind of thing, some of that stuff was quite expensive, and it wasn't purpose built for EVs. It might have been built for something else, and they kind of had to modify it and repurpose it to work in EVs. Just in the 10 years that I've been doing this show, there have been huge improvements in this regard. And whereas before maybe Tesla or other companies had to kind of kludge something together to make it work, now there are companies that were just built up around making purpose-built parts for EVs, that kind of thing. So it got more, we reached economies of scale and things got more efficient and started to cost less and brought the costs down, and improvements were made. So the point is that as these EV makers are using materials like low carbon steel or low carbon aluminum, hopefully that makes its way into the hybrid and ICE world, and we start cleaning up that side of the auto industry as well. So that was a little bit of a digression. The point for this whole thing is that automakers are using the supply chain to as a way to market and sell their products. To me, this feels like the late 90s, early 2000s, where when you would go to buy a car during that time period, they were talking about all the different safety features as a selling point. Not to say that safety wasn't a selling point before that, but I remember buying a Saturn in like 96 or 97, and it had a driver's side airbag. It didn't have a passenger side airbag at that time, but one of the big things that the driver or what the salesman was hyping up was that it had a driver's side airbag. And not very long after that, we bought my wife a Ford Escape, and it had not only a driver's side airbag, but it had a passenger side airbag. And it might have, I can't remember, had a curtain airbag. I mean, there's just all of these things that are, we take for granted today. But back then, that was a huge selling point. And I would imagine that eventually, at some point in time, people just assume the supply chain is very clean, and that will stop being as big of a selling point. Just like, almost nobody mentioned when we bought our van recently that it had airbags. If they mentioned it, I don't remember it. So when somebody chooses to buy an EV, they may, buy it because they want to reduce their carbon footprint, or they may buy it because they just want to save money on gas. But if you're in the reduce the carbon footprint camp, it stands to reason that you want to ensure that the materials and components and everything that went into that car was mined and processed responsibly. It would make me feel better that the company that built my car really took extra steps to make sure that, human rights weren't violated, labor rights weren't violated, or labor laws weren't violated, or if there is a labor law, people weren't taken advantage of. I think you get the point here without me, beating a dead horse. But in general, that kind of stuff is important to me because I don't want to contribute to somebody else's harm. So I want to make sure that everybody is treated fairly. I want to make sure that things are mined and processed responsibly. Now, having said that, the Lead the Charge leaderboard evaluated 18 companies, and more than half of those companies improved in different areas. And one of the areas that they improved in is battery recycling and repurposing. Companies like Mercedes, Ford, and Volkswagen are holding suppliers to higher standards when it comes to responsible mining. Mercedes and Volvo are making big deals about how they are able to reduce their pollution footprint with the Mercedes CLA, which is a great looking car, and the Volvo ES90. So this is fantastic. And Tesla gets a lot of shade, and in the next episode I'm going to talk about some things that don't put Tesla maybe in the best light. Tesla gets a lot of shade, but they should also get their flowers when they deserve flowers. So according to the leaderboard, Tesla has set the industry benchmark, not the industry, a new industry benchmark by publishing information on emissions from their battery supply chain and what they're doing to make improvements. And obviously that is all fantastic, but we shouldn't ignore the other side of this, where some of these improvements are coming from, and that is from pressure from governments. So governmental regulations are also responsible for holding automakers' feet to the fire. For example, there are European regulations that require automakers to map out their supply chains, and that requires them to be more responsible when mining their battery minerals and to design their batteries to be more recyclable. And honestly, if you are building a car, an EV, and you're marketing it as it's being good for the environment, but behind the scenes, your company's just laying waste to all the places that you sourced your materials from, that's not a good look. And eventually people are going to figure it out. And it's just easier to do the right thing. It's not more profitable to always do the right thing, but it's just easier to do the right things. Obviously, there's still a lot to improve on, but we're trending in the right direction. And if you're looking to buy an EV and this type of stuff, like how clean the supply chain is, if that's important to you, you can more easily make your purchasing decision, not only just by comparing specs, which is great, but you can also look back at their supply chain and make a real determination of how responsible are these automakers when it comes to sourcing, mining, and producing these materials. Producing is not the right word. What word am I looking for? Processing. Man, my brain is moving slow this morning. Anyway, if all this stuff is important to you, you now have a better look into something that used to just kind of be a black box, and we didn't know how these companies were processing things unless you were in the industry. Just the average person, it was just not easy to look up. But now it is. It's not great. I mean, we can still make improvements on this, but it's getting better. So I think that's super important. Now, to piggyback off of that, and a different article, an MIT-led study shows that EVs beat ICE vehicles on emissions, which this is something that we always kind of knew. But the argument is always, well, EVs are dirtier to produce. EVs are powered by coal, even though both of those things obviously are not true. We just talked about they're not necessarily dirtier to produce just a second ago. And they're powered by coal only in some areas. So to add a little bit more context to this, how clean EVs are obviously depends on how everything's sourced, but we're not going to talk about that now because we just talked about that. But also where you live and what your driving habits are. So when it comes to emissions, if someone is just powering their vehicle solely off of their solar grid on their house or solar array on their house, then your emissions are really close to zero. Probably not zero, but close to zero. But if you are in one of those states where you're getting your power from coal or even, other dirty energy sources, which would be like EVs at their worst, right? It would be their least efficient version of themselves. It's still producing 18% less emissions than an ICE car. So if just keep that in mind. So if you're driving your, let's say, Honda CRV around and you have a Tesla Model Y and the model, you're in the same place and you are getting your power from coal, your Model Y is still roughly producing 18% less emissions than your CRV, provided that's not a hybrid and all that stuff. But anyway, I just use that as two cars that are roughly the same size. Anyway, location does matter, but EVs typically can save between 40 to 80% when it comes to emissions compared to their ICE counterparts. If you live in the following locations, then you're going to get the best emission savings, according to this MIT study. And this was in North America. It was not, throughout the world. So you'll have to forgive me. But places like California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho has a lot of hydro, and British Columbia, you get the best emission savings in those places. And this is especially true if you live in those places and you live in dense urban environments. EVs don't idle at traffic lights, whereas gas-powered cars do. So being able to work your way through city driving in those places, you are even improving your efficiency even more because you're just not letting the car run. Now, in a lot of cases, newer vehicles, if you pull up to a stoplight, the engine will turn off and then it will start again and turn off and start again. But so, maybe not an apples to apples comparison, but just in general, EVs are better in that regard. So, all right. That is all I had for this particular episode, but that's not all I had necessarily for today. Just a reminder, there is a Tesla episode. I split these in two segments into two different episodes just as an experiment to see if I liked doing it as two different episodes, and two, to see what everybody else thinks. Again, if I have a normal 20 to 30 minute episode, I will not be, I'm not going to split them into two 10-minute episodes. Maybe when I retire, I can do something like that. But this is more like those longer 25 to 30 minutes for each segment. And that's what we have today. So that way this episode stays under 30 minutes. Right now we're at 28 minutes and 20 seconds according to my recording. So yeah, if you would like to email me, you can do so. It's Bodie, BODIE at 918digital.com. You can follow me on LinkedIn at 918digital. And yeah, I'm on X at 918digital, but I don't post very often, if at all. So you can follow me there if you want, but I'm not a very fun follow over there. All right, everybody, thank you so much for listening, and hopefully you go check out the Tesla episode, and I will talk to you soon.
Welcome back to the Dry Eye Sufferer in the wild. Here we have Randy, who's walked away from her screen and is flushing her eyes in the office sink.
C'est quoi?
Oh, is that the soothing call of the sure-footed Sequa user? The Sequa solution is proven to start helping repair damage in as little as 2 weeks.
Sequa is a prescription topical solution for dry eye disease that helps to increase the production of natural tears in your eye. The most common side effects include eye pain and redness. Don't touch vial tip to anything. Use as directed, then discard. Wait 15 minutes before reinserting contacts. Don't use if you're allergic to Sequa.
Sequa!
There it is again. The Sequa user knows that Sequa is comfortable from the first drop. Perhaps the others will adapt. Ow! It seems Randy has chosen to just keep her eyes closed at all times. Don't be like Randy. Visit Sequa.com, that's CEQUA.com, and seek the for yourself.
We've been the trusted experts since 1960 because nobody knows tires better than we do. And with over 90 tire brands, we have an abundance of options in stock for your vehicle. Buy and drive today at DiscountTire.com. Let's get you taken care of.
Real value shows up in reliability you don't have to second guess. Like a set of Firestone all-season tires. They're designed to deliver confidence-inspiring wet weather traction and a quieter ride, no matter the road. season after season. Firestone all-season tires. For durability, you can count on, just like people count on you. Firestone, always dependable since 1900.
Introducing the Total Solutions Advantage only from Comcast Business. It's the largest, fastest fiber-powered network for small business, gig speeds with equipment and security included, and a 5-year price lock. No one does business like Comcast Business.
Switch today. Get started for $60 a month for 12 months when you add an advanced solution to a qualifying internet package. Limited time offer. Restrictions apply. New customers only. Requires 300 megabits per second internet, security edge, and additional qualifying service. 1-year agreement, paperless billing, and autopay with bank account required. Taxes and fees extra.
Support for this podcast comes from Progressive, America's #1 motorcycle insurer. Did you know riders who switch and save with Progressive save nearly $200 per year? That's a whole new pair of riding gloves and more. Quote today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $197 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between October 2024 and September 2025. Potential savings will vary.